Hi everybody, thanks again for joining me for, I guess, another installment of my Allan Holdsworth lesson YouTube series. Gonna do Against the Clock today, which is a song that I originally didn't want to do because it's a Synthaxe tune. And if you watch my secrets video, I said I'm usually not comfortable teaching some of these Synthaxe tunes because there are some things that you can do with it that not only you can't do with the normal guitar, but it's also really hard to hear what's going on because it's not a normal guitar, it's a synth sound. So about a month ago, I saw that somebody had posted on the Allan Holdsworth Facebook group that I belong to that there's the Sophia Wackerman is part of American Idol, and someone had posted a video of her singing this tune which her mother sang on Allan's album at his memorial. And I said, you know what, this actually would be a good song to show because it's relatively simple. There's not a lot of chords in it, there's not a lot of crazy stretching in it, and it's a pretty beautiful tune. So I figured I've been doing so many difficult songs, maybe it's time just to do a shorter, simpler one for anyone else that might be struggling, because I don't want to leave those people out. God knows I struggle myself enough trying to play some of these. So anyway, here we are, Against the Clock. So as I mentioned, especially in my secrets video, there were certain things about the Synthaxe that you really can't do on a normal guitar. One of them being you can switch the tunings on the fly, so you can do standard tuning to fifths tuning, which you can't really do. I mean, I could do it if you use the MIDI pickup, but you can't do it on a normal guitar. And also you can move it an octave higher or lower. Also, all the frets are the same distance away. Same thickness, same width, so playing some chords really high up on the neck on a real guitar, really difficult, but on the Synthaxe it's much easier, and you'll see one of these instances later in the song. The other thing about this song, or about the Synthaxe, that you really can't do on a normal guitar is the ability to hold out a chord. Now, here's just a quick video of Neville Martin demonstrating all the things about the Synthaxe, and you'll see what I'm talking about here.
The pedal unit offers another 3 functions, and the first of these is hold. If I press the pedal and play some notes, any number or in any shape, those notes will be held forever, and melodies can be played over the remaining strings. Pressing the pedal again, or playing over those notes, will cancel them.
So as you can see, you can actually hold out a chord. Now when I first did this, I want to thank my friend Joe Britton. He's always my go-to guy anytime I have some sort of odd question about something, especially with the Synthaxe, because he's done plenty of transcriptions. And I had mentioned to him some of the weirdness that I had in the song, and he had mentioned this hold function. And not only that, but also with the keys that Allan uses on the top, you can actually press down a note and hold it out. So for example, if you're using the keys, you can play, let's say, like an A major up here and hold it down with your 3 fingers, but then play some other notes on the bottom while that top A chord is still ringing out. So you can blend these 2 chords together, or if you want to do separate chords, which is one of the reasons why I can't do a lesson video on Endomorph, because it actually uses this function. So I had asked him about a part, and he had told me that that's one of the things you can do, and I said, oh, this makes a lot of sense. So I'm just going to skip ahead and just mention what I'm talking about here in the song. So I'm not going to really do this in the lesson, but this is what's kind of going on, and if you want to try to do it yourself, you can try to play it this way. So, like for example, one of the chords is this B flat major 13, but then the next chord after that is a D minor add 9. But what was happening is I was still hearing this G on the top. So it was something like this, which is a chord that you've seen if you watch my top 10 hardest Allan songs, Allan voicings, I should say. This is this like minor 9, 11 kind of chord, if D is your root. But the problem here is Allan's actually playing this D note, and then this. So I said, well, how was this possible? And Joe had explained to me that the Synthaxe can hold those notes. So what he's doing is he's playing this chord and either using the hold function, or he's pressing and holding the key down on the B string. So this G is ringing out and then playing that D minor add 9 while that G rings out. So it's really like a minor 11. And then eventually he presses the key again because his finger is triggered on the 10th fret. So that only happens in a couple of places in the song. But I don't think it sounds as good as actually playing the root on the bottom. So I'm going to be talking about them with the root on the bottom per se. So anyway, let's just get to the verse.
A fragment of reality as you look round and see some old forgotten place.
So this section right here is going to be the most important part of the song because this repeats throughout the entire song, but there are, of course, just like any Allan tune, slight variations. So where there are slight variations, I'll mention them, but I'm not going to go over the entire part, just where it's different. So definitely focus on this part the most. So the first chord is this A minor at 11. You have A, C, and E, or A minor, with the 11 on the top. This is a pretty common voicing that Allan uses, like in House of Mirrors and other tunes. He uses this one. Then that moves up to B, and we have a B minor at 11. Then it goes to that B major 13 chord I was just talking about. You can also think of this chord as a G, first inversion G minor add 9, or any major 13 as a minor add 9, because we have a G, a B flat, and a D. We have a G minor here, and then we're adding in the A, or the 9 here. So any of these major 13 chords you could think of as first inversion minor add 9 chords, if that's what it sounds like to you. But I'm going to call them major 13 chords because it'll just be easier for me for consistency's sake. So let me just start over again. A minor at 11, B minor at 11, B flat major 13, to a D minor at 9. Then it goes to C major 13, and this is also this is that time where you hear that minor 11 kind of sound, because that note is being latched to the next chord, which is a E minor add 9. Of course, if you want, you can try to play it like this, and then just move your first finger up to that B. But if you're playing with the bass might be taking care of that E. But I don't think it sounds nearly as good, honestly. It's just playing the minor add 9, and then playing the B on the top. And then after that, E flat major 13. Now once again, Allan's latching these two notes, this E flat and this D, and then on the top part he's playing a B flat major triad, and then it goes to A flat major, all while those notes are being pinned down, or he's pressing them down with the keys and using his other fingers to press down on the top 3 strings. So that really is the meat of it. Then it just repeats again with, once again, slight variation. Starts off the same way. A minor at 11, B minor at 11, a B flat major 13, D minor at 9, C major 13. Here's where it's different. E major add 9, then E flat major 13. Then after that we have this little ending tag. It's G major, and once again it has that 11 added to it from the previous chord. So this is almost like a major add 9 add 11 in G, if you want to play it like this. But it would just be easier, honestly, just to play G major add 9. And then a sus4 add 9. And then what happens here is Allan's actually holding this chord and then adding in a G on the top, the flat 7. So this is more like a, what is that? Well, the G's are already there, so you're just adding another G on top of it. And then that note is being latched to the next chord, which is a C and sus4 add 9. But now what happens is you take the F and you move it to E flat, so now it becomes a C minor add 9. Also, during that second half of the song, during the vocals, Allan's actually playing these major triads rising. It starts off with G major over the A minor at 11. But now I'm not going to be able to reach this, but it's actually G major, then it goes to A major, B flat major, C major, and then D major for the last one. But as you can see, I can't reach that. First of all, I have 22 frets, not 24, but trying to play that really high up on a guitar could be really tough because the frets obviously get smaller and smaller and your access is much harder. So anyway, those two sections, those little variations, is really the main part of the song, especially for the solo section, of course, with variations. So remember, the only real variations are the add 9 parts. It starts off, the first half has a D minor add 9 and an E minor add 9. Then the second repeat has a D minor add 9, but an E major add 9. Because that is really what changes mostly when those parts repeat again through the other sections. So anyway, I'm going to now talk about the solo sections and the ending part. Once again, just quickly moving through the chords that we just did, but just talking about where they're different. So the solo section starts off with this little 2-chord motif that modulates a whole step up. The first chord is a A major 7 sharp 5 to an A minor 11, and then that same thing happens in B. B major 7 sharp 5 to B minor 11. That happens twice, 2 full repeats. Now the third time, it cuts it off a little bit early. Same chords. Now after the B major 7 sharp 5, it doesn't go to B minor 11, it goes to D minor add 9. And then it plays just like the first section we just did, the first verse. So we have D minor add 9, C major 13, E minor add 9, E flat major 13. Also with the major chords on the top, that happens again, the B flat major to A flat major, A minor at 11, B minor at 11, B flat major 13, D minor at 9, C major 13. And just like in the first part where we went D minor 9, E minor 9, D minor 9, it goes to E major at 9. Then E flat major 13, and once again it has the same sort of ending motif with the G major add 9 to the A sus4 add 9 to the C sus4 add 9, and that's that first repeat of the solo. Now the second part of the solo starts off and sort of ends the same way, but of course there's got to be more variation, so there's a variation in the middle. So it starts off the same way, but the two repeats of the 2-chord motif. Then the solo continues. Then it goes out of that part, D minor add 9, C major 13. Now here, it goes to an E minor add 9 to E flat major 13. Now what happens here is it changes. Instead of going to the next part with the major triads, it takes a little bit turn harmonically. Now once again, Joe helped me out with this because I had the meat of the chord, but I was missing one note. It should be this chord, which is a little strange. It's very similar to this F sharp minor 6/9 chord that we've seen before, like in part 1. But now you're barring with your first finger and playing a D on the top, which is the flat 6. So if we kind of analyze this chord with all the notes that we have in here, it's actually like a diminished chord. Now if we treat the 6 here, this E flat, as not a 6 but as a double flat 7, then we have a double flat 7, a flat 6, the 9, and then the flat 3. So what we have is we have almost all the components of like a diminished 9 chord with a flat 13. And this chord actually belongs to the F diminished scale, the half-whole diminished scale, which is how Allan treats it. He actually plays a diminished scale over this. So this is part of the diminished scale, this weirdo kind of chord. So I guess it's a F sharp diminished 9, flat 13. Then after that we have a G major add 9 to an A major, F major add 9. We've seen these chords in White Line he uses. Then it goes to this B flat major 13. Now this is where I also had trouble with, because I'm hearing notes in there. I'm hearing one note that I'm not entirely sure how it's being played. The best way that I can think of that it's being played is Allan's latching this chord down, because B flat and the G is on the top, and I hear D major. Now, the reason why this chord is so tricky is because the next chord after that, then it goes into the D major add 9, but it has the G in there. So where is that G coming from? Well, it has to be coming from here, if he's pressing the key down. So he's probably pressing this down and leaving the B flat and the G to ring out, and then playing a D major on the top. And this right here, we have an A, and we have a D, which is right here, an A and a D. So they're still part of the same chord, it's just adding in that F sharp, and there's no other way of adding that F sharp while keeping this G to ring out for the next part. And the bass is playing an E flat there. So I guess if you really want to just play something quick that makes a little bit more sense, it's probably easier to play, is you can just play a D major with an E flat in the bass. So this would be like an E flat minor major 7 sharp 11. So you can do something like that to sort of get the same result. But I believe Allan's playing a major 13 and then playing a D, whether he's tapping it somehow like that, like in Tokyo Dream, or he's latching it by holding the keys down and then just playing the D major with the rest of his fingers with the keys. That's what I hear. Then after that it kind of ends the same way as the other parts that we've done, D major add 9. So now this time, instead of going D minor add 9 to E major add 9, it's D major add 9 to E major add. So there's 2 major chords in a row here, which we didn't have before. D major add 9, C major 13, E major add 9, and then E flat major 13. And then that ends the same way with the G major add 9 to the A sus4 add 9 to the C sus4 add 9. And then that's it. And then the drum solo section is just a 2 chord motif. The A major 7 sharp 5 to A minor 11, B major 7 sharp 5 to B minor 11. So I'm going to just play through the solo section very quickly, just so you hear what that whole thing sounds like, because I kind of broke it up a bit. So anyway, this is what the solo section sounds like. I'm just playing a little bit faster to get it out of the way, just so you can see how all the parts come together. Here's the second half of the solo. Now I'm just going to play, for the weird part, one of the chord alternates. diminished chord. I'm going to play the D major with the E flat and the bass. D major at 9. E major at 9. That's it. And then it goes to the drum solo section. Now the end verse is a little bit different. It's just like the beginning part, but now instead of D minor add 9 to E minor add 9, it's D major add 9 to E major add 9. And that's it. So I'll play through once again briefly. A minor at 11, B minor at 11, B flat major 13, D major add 9, C major 13, E major add 9, E flat major 13. Now this ending chord, once again, what makes the Synthaxe so tough is I really don't know what's going on at the end here. It's very rich and beautiful sounding, but it's really hard to tell what's an overdub, what's really being played, what's being held out, yada yada yada. The best kind of, I'm not even going to really teach this, I'll just kind of play it, and if you want to figure it out you can, but I don't feel comfortable teaching it. But what I hear is kind of this G major, not really G major, this G sus4 at 9, and then on the top, the B flat major, and then the kind of this like F Lydian sounding thing, and then like a B flat major 7 sus2, while this is sort of bleeding out on top of it. So really hard to tell, but of course you can just get away with just E flat major 13, and then kind of the B flat major on the top. So yeah, that's it. A lot of weird variation in there, something that might not really be keen to the ear, but it's a relatively simple tune because a lot of parts repeat the same way, and there's not any really crazy stretching, minor, some add 9 shapes, minor add 9. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it, maybe learned a little bit, and it'd be nice to see some people sort of covering this with a band, with some vocals and stuff. And this is weird because this is the tune that I don't think Allan, like he could have played live. I don't know if he just felt that he couldn't get someone to sing it, or it just didn't sound as good with Steve or somebody playing the melody on the keyboards, kind of like his older material. We'll never know, but I think this could have been a good song to play live. Anyway, just my 2 cents, so hopefully you guys can play it and enjoy it. So thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you guys soon.